Fasting is the first principle of medicine. This was said by 13th century poet Jalaluddin Rumi, and I would entirely agree with him. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said that let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. He also said that when you feed the body when it is sick, you feed the sickness. So that is where intermittent fasting comes in. One should never eat when the body is sick. One should stop eating and deprive the sickness of food, and that is how you will heal. Keep watching to find out how. Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel, The Healthy Drive. This channel is about your health. Today I am going to tell you a few facts about intermittent fasting. I have myself been doing intermittent fasting for the last 12 years, so let me share my experience with you. If you have gone back to one of my episodes named How I Lost 30 kgs, you must have seen there that one of the ways which I lost weight was to adopt a low carbohydrate diet. And that really helped me to lose a lot of weight. But after losing around 25 to 27 kgs, I found that there was a plateau, and I was not losing weight any further, and moreover sometimes weight would tend to creep up. Then I knew that it was time to go into something or adapt a way of eating which would help me to not only maintain the weight but also to lose further weight which I wanted to. So I adopted a process of intermittent fasting. So this intermittent fasting is something, a way of eating. It is a lifestyle change. It is not a diet that you will get a diet chart about. So what happens in intermittent fasting is there is a period of eating and there is a period of not eating in the entire 24-hour cycle. So there is a eating window and there is a fasting window. So this is what I adopted. My initial eating window was I used to eat 3 meals a day, sometimes even 4 meals a day, even on a low carb meal. As you already know, and I've talked to you about in previous episodes, that if you eat small meals throughout the day, your insulin level never gets to settle down. To lose weight, you need to go down on the insulin and to activate the metabolic switch. Once you activate the metabolic switch, then the body can burn your fat and then you can lose weight. That is what I did. Now, that really helped me a lot, and not only I achieved the body weight which I wanted to, but I have been maintaining that for the last 10 years. There are a lot of myths about intermittent fasting, and whenever I am with people, whenever I am outside in a conference or in a meeting and I am not eating, people come and ask me that why are you not having lunch? So I said, I don't have lunch. Or why are you not having breakfast? I said, I don't have breakfast. It's a kind of a conversation opener, and people ask me why. So I tell them that this is why. I was once upon a time metabolically very unwell. I was obese, I was pre-diabetic, I was having high blood pressure, I was having knee joint pains, I was having acidity like GERD symptoms, I was having bronchial asthma. So all these things I have been able to conquer with the help of low carbohydrate diet, and then intermittent fasting added on to it. But then they asked that isn't intermittent fasting dangerous? Doctors tell people not to fast. Nutritionists tell their patients not to fast, and that is what the mainstream medical advice is. So one of the most common accusations, the most common misconception about intermittent fasting is that fasting will put you in a starvation mode. Your body will starve. But have a look at this picture, and you can see that in the first 4 hours, what happens is body is in the post-absorptive state. So the blue color is the glucose levels, which falls in first 4 hours. But as soon as glucose level falls and you have stopped eating, that is, you have gone into the fasted state, what happens is the yellow curve picks up. The yellow curve is the glycogen. Glycogen is stored glucose in the liver. So the body taps into the stored glycogen, which converts into sugar and is used by the cells. So that continues for the up to next 24 hours. But what happens after 24 hours is very interesting. What the Once the glycogen stores run out, what happens is the body starts manufacturing its own glucose in the liver itself, which is known as neoglucogenesis. So this neoglucogenesis is something which supplies sugar to the vital organs which needs sugar for its metabolism. And it is a misconception to think that body will go into hypoglycemic state once you stop eating for a particular period of time. Body knows that whatever small amount of sugar is needed, the body is capable of manufacturing of its own. That is why carbohydrates are always known as non-essential nutrients. The brain doesn't really go out of the supply of glucose, because the liver will manufacture whatever little it is needed, and actually very little is needed, as I have told you before, around 4.5 grams at a time, which is 1 teaspoonful is. But the problem is we eat much more nowadays. So this is what happens. The gluconeogenesis takes over, and after 24 hours, what is happening is, you can see in the right low corner of the tabulation which is there in the picture. As I have told you, that the body can run on two fuels, the glucose and the ketones. So after 24 hours, what happens, the body switches to a alternative fuel, which are the ketone bodies. Now these ketone bodies are something which are breakdown products of the fatty acids in the body. So your body fat can break down into ketone bodies, and ketone bodies can even pass the blood brain barrier and can act as a fuel to the body. As I have told you before, these ketone bodies are much better fuel for the body, for the brain, for the body, and plenty of research is there to prove that. So what happens is, body becomes much more better running machine, brain becomes much more focused. So that is what the biggest advantage of intermittent fasting. So actually it is not true that intermittent fasting puts you on a starvation mode, or fasting puts you on a starvation mode. The next thing which people would ask me is, or people ask, people have the doubt about intermittent fasting, is that fasting burns your muscle, and there is muscle loss if you do fasting. Now this is also not true. If you have a look at this picture, and you will see that the muscle loss is very minimal. If you look at the blue curve in this picture, you can see that the protein portion, once you start fasting, this is the graph is of days of fasting, and on day 0 there is actually a little increase in protein, and then there is a slight decrease, and then it remains stable. And there is the yellow curve is the carbohydrate, which actually goes down in your body. You lose fat, which is stored product of carbohydrate, and the fatty acids and ketones, they are breakdown products. And after second day of fasting, what happens, the body is working on a different fuel. That fuel is the ketone bodies. So this is what happens. Your body is always sparing your muscles. Body has that much of intelligence that if you go without food, it will not touch the muscles. Now this is a built-in intelligence of the body which has happened over millions of years. That is what I told you in my last episode, that evolutionarily fasting is something which is built inside us, and your bodies are much better adapted to not eat than to eat small meals throughout the day. What we are doing today is eating 3 meals and 3 snacks, which is an absolute disaster. The ancient Egyptians had it right. The ancient Egyptian medicine says that only 25% of what you eat is feeding your body. The rest 75% is actually feeding your doctor. So why feed your doctor unnecessarily? Why fall sick? That is what I am trying to say. So one of the ways of keeping healthy in this day of rampant lifestyle diseases, which are the number one killers today, is to do intermittent fasting. So this is another myth which is busted, that fasting will burn your muscles away when you do intermittent fasting. There is some concern about the fact that if you are if you are doing intermittent fasting and you are restricting your eating window, whether you are getting enough protein or not. Now that is a question which will take up an entire episode. I will talk about it later. But in short, yes, you must look at your protein to target also when you do intermittent fasting, because protein is perhaps the most important macronutrient of the body, and you must make sure that you get adequate protein whenever you eat after you break your fast. Now, this picture also tells you fat mass lost during fasting is much more than muscle mass loss. The muscle mass loss may be very little, but the body actually does not touch the muscle or does not burn the muscle at all. In fact, that is the difference between intermittent fasting and starvation. You can call it starvation when after many days of fasting, the body actually has the intelligence to maintain the blood sugar at any cost. So only when it runs out of the fat stored in the body, then only it will touch the muscle for neoglucogenesis. So that how long that is, how does take? It can take days and days and months, and there is a case history of even a year. He was abnormally fat, of course. A person who fasted for 380 days. That is a case report, but a normal person has enough fat stores to go about more than a month with intermittent fasting, or more than a month of fasting. So there is no need to fear that you will starve, you will become hypoglycemic. It is all a matter of knowing that there is a metabolic switch in the body. It is a matter of knowing that the body can burn on two fuels, and with this knowledge, if you go ahead, and intermittent fasting becomes very easy to do. What is important to remember that intermittent fasting is like a marathon running. It is not a short sprint. So because it is marathon running, your body has to be trained for it. You cannot just jump into intermittent fasting. Just because I'm telling you today, you can't decide that tomorrow I'm going to start fasting. It took me more than a year to slowly ease into fasting. So you do it very gradually. Like if you have dinner at 10 p.m. and the next day morning breakfast you have at 8 a.m. So one day in a week you don't have the breakfast. But previous to that, you make sure that your dinner was a meal which was very healthy, which was healthy in protein and the essential fatty acids, and we did not have any kind of junk food. So because that will keep on making you feel hungry, so that will not allow you to fast for a longer time. So after a good, wholesome, nutritious, nutrient dense meal, once you wake up in the morning, so one day you skip the breakfast and do not eat anything until lunchtime. So that will give you an extended period of not eating or a fasted state. So that is how you begin. It's kind of training your body. After that, you do twice a week, and then thrice a week, and then you can do it every day without a problem, without feeling hungry. The main thing is hunger. So the problem with other diets is you will feel hungry if you eat small meals throughout the day. They may, however minimum the calorie count of that meal may be, but the problem is the hunger. So if you are feeling hungry, then you should not be fasting. There is absolutely no point fasting. If you are fasting and if you are feeling hungry, then you are not doing it right. Something is wrong. So the right way to fast is to train your body to fast like you train your body for a marathon. And how do you do that? You go into it slowly. You train your body to use fat as a fuel. You train your body in such a manner that you eat in such a manner that your insulin level comes down. And once your insulin level comes down, body will utilize fat as a fuel, and that fat is plenty even in a normal weight person. And in a person who has some fat stores, you can go on fasting for a very long period of time, and you will at a stage realize that you are not feeling hungry. That is the stage that you know that your body is burning an alternative fuel. Your body is in a state of what is known as nutritional ketosis. So that is how one should go into fasting. That is because you must remember that as when you exercise physically, when you do body weight resistance training, you are training your muscles. But there is no way to exercise the internal organs of the body by physical exercise. The only way the internal organs of the body can be exercised is by fasting. So isn't that a great thing to know? All you have to do is to train your body, is have the knowledge how to do it, and go into it gradually. And once your body is trained to run this kind of internal marathon, your internal metabolism will be corrected. So your not only your fat stores will diminish. I always say that fat loss is a secondary benefit. What really heals by addressing your both meal and fasting is your internal metabolism, and that internal metabolism brings down that healing of internal metabolism brings down your inflammation in the body, brings down the insulin levels in the body, and that results in weight loss as one of the biggest and one of the most obvious side benefits. There are other benefits which occur and which occurred with me. Like, I not only lost weight, I felt more energetic. And that is another myth, that most people believe that fasting will reduce the metabolic rate. Fasting does not reduce the metabolic rate. In fact, just the opposite happens. So have a look at this picture. You can see that the burgundy colored graph is actually which represents the metabolic rate, goes up with days of fasting. Your exercise capacity also goes up, and weight, which is green in color, is coming down. So this is amazing, isn't it? So what happens when you do intermittent fasting is there is noradrenaline which is secreted in the body. It's a kind of a mild stress in the body which the body undertakes when you are fasting, and this generates in the liberation of norepinephrine or noradrenaline as it is called. So this gives the body more energy. So after some time, when you are doing fasting the proper way, not only you don't feel hungry, you feel more energetic. So actually the metabolic rate has been found to increase several times during intermittent fasting. So that's another wrong conception which you need to get rid of. Now another thing which people ask me, that if a person is fasting, when the person starts eating or breaks the fast, he or she will tend to overeat, and ultimately he will consume more energy or more calorie. Now this is likely to happen when you are eating the wrong kind of food, when you are eating very refined carbohydrates, or when you are eating junk food, when you are eating food which is fried in highly refined oils. So these kind of wrong eating, and whether you fast or not, that kind of eating can give you food cravings. But if you are eating a wholesome diet, if you are eating nutritionally dense foods, and you fast in a proper manner, what happens is there is a feedback loop which works inside your brain, and which makes you feel full. If you have nutrient dense protein and fat together, you will feel satiated, because protein is the most satiating macronutrient, and you will stop eating automatically. So what happens at the end of the day, if you have not eaten breakfast, if you have not eaten lunch, and you are eating just between 2 hours one small meal and one large meal, or just one meal a day, you cannot eat as much as you would have eaten throughout the day. So in an automatic fashion, in a feedback loop fashion, it is not possible for you to eat more than what you would have eaten throughout the day if you had eaten multiple times. So that is what actually is the calculation. And it is not true that if you are fasting, then when you break your fast, you will tend to eat more. Perhaps a day or two it might happen, but from the third or fourth day onwards, it takes time to get used to everything. So from the third day and the fourth day onwards, what will happen is your body will get used to that, and automatically when you eat in a 4-hour eating window, suppose many days I eat in a 4-hour eating window, that is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So what happens is that you eat very nutritious food, and when I feel full, I stop eating. So I find that much is enough, and it's not that I overeat, neither do I deprive my body of nutrients. So that 4 hour window period, I may have one small meal and one large meal, or I may have just one meal. So that is enough, but it is not that I overeat. It does not happen. So that is another wrong thing, another misconception about intermittent fasting. Similarly, the fact that many people ask that the body is deprived of nutrients, it is related to the other myth. Body is also not deprived of nutrients, because you have to make sure once again that what you are eating, if you break your fast and eat processed carbohydrates and flour, things like uh, pizzas and refined rice and processed food, so these things may deprive you of nutrients. But if you eat nature made wholesome food and with plenty of protein and natural fat, that will not deprive you of nutrients. Absolute. And I have been fasting for more than 10 years now, as I told you, and I never use any supplements. I know that what I eat give me all the vitamins and minerals in addition to protein and fat. Carbohydrate doesn't come in the consideration. Uh, so actually what happens during fasting is, your body actually exists in two states. One is the fed state when you are eating, and one is the fasted state when you are not eating. But the transition doesn't happen immediately. It's not like actually a switch. It takes time. You stop eating, then the body starts digesting the food and getting energy from it, and then when the food in the blood runs out, then by the time the excess has been stored in the liver as glycogen, the carbohydrates, and then the body derives its energy, glucose source, from the liver, and then later on when that is also over in the fasted state, then the body switches over to the fat, provided your insulin levels are low. So this I explained to you in a previous episode. This is the two compartmental model, where your fat stores are actually considered as the deep freeze, where a lot of fat is stored, and what you are doing in your daily life is you are putting in food in your mouth, which is like stored in a refrigerator, which is there in front of you in the drawing room, and you are taking food out of the refrigerator and eating it. So the moment the refrigerator is empty, because you are so much used to this refrigerator, you have forgotten the fact that there is a lot of energy in the in the basement, in the deep fridge. So you are just using the refrigerator, and whenever the refrigerator food gets over, you fill it up again. You feel the need because you feel hungry, because you are eating a lot of processed carbohydrates and small meals throughout the day. So keep filling it, and you can see this policeman, which is known as the insulin. So that policeman is there. As long as he is there, you can never access the deep freeze stores of fat. So the way we eat, we make sure that the policeman is always there. Insulin is always high, so you cannot access the deep freeze foods which are there inside which are there stored away. So to make this policeman go away and to empty the fridge, you need to start fasting in a proper way, which I told you. So once you have started fasting, this is what happens. Your fridge is empty. Your all the calories, or if you believe in calories, count that is gone out, and your body now needs fuel. Body is very intelligent. It will get fuel. It knows that there is a huge store of fat energy there. So that is now the insulin policeman has gone. Now what happens is body can tap into the fat, and body can continue with gluconeogenesis, and later on with ketone bodies, which puts the body into a state of nutritional ketosis. Now this nutritional ketosis is very desirable and beneficial. So that I have told you already in my previous episode. So intermittent fasting is nothing but a way of life. It is a way of eating, and it is also a way of not eating. So it kind of there are many ways of doing intermittent fasting. The most popular way, or the most common, or for beginners I would say, is put your eating window in just 8 hours. Restrict your eating window to 8 hours. So that is why intermittent fasting is also known as time restricted eating. So you can start with whatever you are eating, just restrict it in 8 hours. Maybe you get up in the morning, have a late breakfast. Don't have the breakfast first thing in the morning. So if you are getting up at 6 o'clock and getting up at even 8 o'clock, have your breakfast at 10 a.m. and then whatever you are eating, finish it by 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. So 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. would be 8 hours. So in that 8 hours, if you finish off your eating and the rest of the time you don't eat anything, that is known as a 16:8 pattern, and that itself will give you plenty of benefits. Not even changing whatever you eat. And then there is a long way to go. You can do so many things after that. You can change what you eat. You can stop eating, first of all, sugary foods. You can stop eating processed food. You can stop eating starch. You can stop eating the fried food, which is fried in refined oils. So and stick to food which is natural, made by nature, not made by man. Stick to food which is very high in the protein content, because protein is the most important macronutrient. I can never repeat this enough. Along with the healthy fat that comes with it, you can see that in nature fat and protein come together. The egg, which is the reference protein, it comes with cholesterol, which is very, very good for you. I can do an entire episode on eggs and cholesterol. And eggs are perhaps one of the most nutrient things you can eat. And so if you eat in a healthy manner, and that will also help you to fast longer. So that, because the brain knows that it has been fed properly. So you can go up to 1 meal a day, and anything more than 1 meal a day is extended fast, and I will not talk about it now. Maybe I will talk about it later. So here is a pictorial representation of what I have been telling you, that when you wake up in the morning and your insulin levels are low, and maybe your body is burning a little bit of fat. So basically most of us are used to eating carbohydrates in the breakfast. But if you do not eat carbohydrates and you eat fat and protein, there is quite a bit of fat burning, as you can see in this picture. And if you do not have carbohydrates for lunch also, if you have only fat and protein, you will have even more fat burning. The question is, what happens if you skip breakfast? Now you are stepping into the intermittent fasting zone. So here there is a huge amount of fat burning, because by the time you have kind of activated your metabolic switch, your glycogen stores have been depleted, and your body is now switching over to burning fat as a fuel. So this is what happens. A lot of fat is burned, and if you are able to skip lunch at an advanced stage of intermittent fasting, so this is, you see, a lot of fat is burned, and your body is not only generating energy from this fuel, it is burning the fat. That's why I always say that fat loss is a side benefit. Your body is actually becoming healthier by utilizing a much better fuel. So the real secret of weight loss, as far as weight loss due to intermittent fasting is concerned, is that your insulin level must be down. And for getting your insulin levels down and getting into the state of nutritional ketosis, intermittent fasting is perhaps one of the fastest way of doing it. So it not only makes your body healthy, it exercises your internal organs, as I told you before. So and it has been shown that fasting actually reverses insulin resistance. There is another huge benefit with intermittent fasting which has been showed in research, is that it increases in the amount of growth hormone in the body. Growth hormone, as you know, is a hormone which is secreted by the body when we are growing up, and which maintains muscle, because muscles are the building blocks of the body. Now as we start aging, our HGH, that is the human growth hormone levels, start falling gradually, and that is one of the causes of aging. So in modern medicine now, growth hormone is artificially produced, and people use it to maintain their health and maintain their muscles. But they are first of all very, very expensive, horrendously expensive in fact. And the results of artificially manufactured growth hormone has never been beneficial as much as natural growth hormone would have been, and have been shown to have dangerous side effects. So why waste so much of money and why risk so much of complication when you can generate your own growth hormone, which is by intermittent fasting? And this has been shown in many research papers that this generation of growth hormone results in cell repair, results in cell growth, it results in healing, that it brings down inflammation, and it is anti-aging, actually increases longevity, and it gives more energy, and that it causes fat loss and muscle building goes without saying. As soon as fat is lost, muscles are becoming more prominent, and all these other benefits come into the picture. So it is an amazing fact which is built in inside a body. It's like a superpower. Every one of us is a superman and a superwoman, and all you have to do is to just activate that switch. That is so very important. Now another thing very very interesting about intermittent fasting is that is fasting and the brain. Now fasting and the brain can be a separate topic itself. I will deal with it in a completely separate episode, but let me tell you today that there is something which is secreted in the brain when you fast, which is known as brain derived neurotropic factor. Now what it means in simple language is that it kind of makes the brain more flexible, and it kind of regenerates the brain, and brain becomes very very sharp and focused. It is a common knowledge that the nerve cells once which goes dead or goes bad or is injured can never be regenerated. That is what most of us believes in, but intermittent fasting has been shown to regenerate nerve cells, so much so that it has helped in patients of Alzheimer's, it has helped in patients of Parkinsonism and many other brain diseases. So this something is mediated through brain derived neurotropic factor, that is BDNF. It has shown to cause regeneration of nervous tissue. This has been shown to improve your memory. This has actually, what happens is the neuronal connections in between the cells of the brain, they improve, and that results in all this plasticity, or we call, which means the flexibility of the brain. All this happens because of intermittent fasting. So basically this intermittent fasting can lead to a multi-system regeneration. It not only reduces visceral fat, it increases your lifespan, increases the memory, it increases brain regeneration, as I told you. It reduces the chances of cancer. So cancer and in nutritional ketosis and cancer and intermittent fasting has already come into the forefront as a major research area, and there are many papers now to prove that intermittent fasting done in a way, in a proper way, can actually prevent cancer. And already people have started using fasting during chemotherapies, which has been shown that the side effects of chemotherapy which occurs are either very minimal or just not there at all. So that is already there. And about prevention of cancer, that once again is a full subject, and I will maybe I will talk about it in the future. So these are the benefits of intermittent fasting on the entire body, and this has been tried out not only in animal experiments but also in human trials, and they have been shown to, intermittent fasting has been shown to reverse diabetes reversal and remission, as I have talked about in the fantastic interview I had with Mr. Shashikant Iyengar, that it is very much possible, and remission is official. It is there in the guidelines. One of the mechanisms by which type 2 diabetes can be reversed is by intermittent fasting, of course under the close guidance of a medical practitioner. It reduces aging, it reduces cardiovascular disease. Heart disease is another area which is completely lost. We are completely lost about heart disease in mainstream medicine. People are just dropping dead, everywhere. So that is something I believe that we have been barking up the wrong tree. Instead of looking at the real cause of heart disease, we have been looking at wrong markers, wrong factors. So heart disease is something is full chapter. Once again, I will talk about it later. But intermittent fasting plays a big role in the prevention of heart disease. You can make out by now that intermittent fasting has so much benefits. Then there is, and it is there within you. There is absolutely no reason why we should not be doing it. So because the advantages of fasting are so many. Intermittent fasting is simple, it is flexible, it is powerful, and the best part is it can be added on to any diet. You need not have to be sticking to a particular form of diet to start fasting. At least you can be a vegetarian, you can be a vegan, you can be a non-vegetarian as it is called in our country, and you can just add on fasting to any kind of diet to start with, then and take it from there. And the best part of it, it is free, and that is the most wonderful thing about it. It is, God has given you this enormous power. So God has given you this Brahmastra free of cost, and all you have to do is to tap it. But to use it, you must know how to do it. And somehow that it is such a powerful weapon against these lifestyle diseases has been lost in translation. So that is what I'm trying to do, trying to make you aware that there is inside you a tremendous force which can be woken up. I would like to draw your attention to the publication in NEJM in 2019. NEJM is New England Journal of Medicine, which is one of the premier medical journals. And this publication is by Dr. Mark P. Matson. Dr. Mark Matson has done some pioneering research in intermittent fasting. And this particular publication tells you whatever I have been telling you so far, that there is a metabolic switch, and metabolic switch is activated by intermittent fasting, and the body taps into ketones, and ketones are much better molecules for your metabolism. It not only reduces inflammation in the body, it gives the body longevity, it heals the body, and many other benefits. In fact, this paper proposes that intermittent fasting should be taught in medical schools and should be prescribed by all doctors, because the benefits are so many and the evidence is so huge that it is not fair not to prescribe it or not to advocate it. I have left the paper link in the notes below. You must go through this paper. Plus, there are many other papers which show that intermittent fasting benefits heart disease. I will talk about it more when I talk about heart disease. And intermittent fasting benefits your metabolic health in general. So evidence is there, and the science is there, and the tradition is also there, and this is something which we have known for ages, and I would say we have known for millennia, and there is absolutely no reason why everyone should not do some amount of time restricted eating, that is some amount of fasting. It is something which your body will recognize as its own as soon as you start doing it, and it is so simple. It can be added on to any diet. It is convenient once you know how to do it, and the best part of it all is that it gives you freedom from food, and that is what I have experienced. And this freedom from food actually is a very liberating experience. You don't have to get up in the morning and start thinking what I am going to eat, what is going to be my breakfast, what I am going to eat for lunch, what I am going to have after that. So all this is absolutely out of your mind, and you can focus on your work and focus on whatever you are doing. By the time your brain is also very much working in a better manner. So, and food never bothers you. So you eat at the end of the day when you feel that yes, time has come for my body to refuel, and before that you don't feel hungry at all. It's a very liberating experience. You have to go through it to realize it. This has happened to me for the last 10 years, and this freedom from food can be absolutely experience which can save you not only money but time, and can give you much better health. But remember that if you are having a condition and if you are on medication, then please do work with your doctor, and then only you should go into intermittent fasting, and you must go into it very gradually. So I hope you have learned a few things about intermittent fasting, more about this topic in future episodes. Meanwhile, please do not forget to subscribe to this channel, and please like and share this vital information with all your friends and family, and I'll catch up with you in the next one.